Hello everyone, you're listening to Little Saturday Cars Live. Hello everyone, thank you for joining the podcast this week. Thank you for listening, thank you for your support. I hope everyone had a great week and is having a great Saturday and furthermore a great weekend. We're going to jump straight to it, but first I'd like to thank one of our sponsors for SRT Lawyers and for this podcast, and it is CarLock. So you want to get some data analytics such as your driving patterns, your acceleration, your GPS coordinates, so where have you been, and if unfortunately your car has been stolen, you parked in a bad neighborhood, some asshole punches through your window and starts your car, well, CarLock has you covered. And if you emphasize any of these applications that I have mentioned, then contact CarLock and tell them that the Dysfunctional Podcast has sent you and you like to use their product. Now, we mentioned this product before, and Polar SRT has said in the past that it's nominal for his application. But however, if you really need this application and you just think it might help you on the road, then don't hesitate to contact them. Now on to the news. Now, have you recalled the Jaguar F-Type? I have especially, and I think in general this car is a beautiful muscle car. It's essentially a muscle car. It's a loud, raspy V8, essentially a Mustang that graduated from Oxford, as Jay Leno put it. However, they're updating their 2021 F-Type with a new fascia and more interior features. Now, the pricing is pretty consistent with the 2020, with the changes, surprisingly, but the only price hike, and this shows what Jaguar has done in the past, the only price hike is the R trim, which if you've looked at the prices for the last generation, there has been a huge price difference between the V8, which is the R trim, and the V6, which is the S trim. And I think they also offer the 4-cylinder turbo trim, which is obviously lower than the V6 trim. Now, this new F-Type model will either be offered in a coupe or a convertible, but the convertible will cost more, of course, depending on what you choose, I assume, because they give you a price range between $2,700 and $3,100. But the article has specified that it gives it that classic look, and it's appealing as ever, both inside and out. Now, this is very subjective, and I think it's all about preference in the end, because I know some people that really like this car, especially the old generation one, and who really hate it and think that Jaguar is cutting corners in terms of their interior and for some body panels, so it's all about preference. Now, the article has specified that some trim levels see a price drop, but however, the only increase, and this is not surprising again, is the R trim level, which is going to have a bump of $1,400. Now, 4 trim levels will be offered: the P300, First Edition P300, R Dynamic P380, and the R. The SVR model got the axe for the 2021, so I think they're not going to produce it, but who knows, probably 2 years later, 2023, if sales are good, then they can possibly make it. But the engine lives under the hood of the R for the 2021, so I'm assuming that's a hint that they're going to still make the supercharged V8, which produces around 500 horsepower, 500 pound-feet of torque. But however, and this is something that's interesting for Jaguar, and it seems like they're trying to nurture to people who actually want this car but can't afford the R or the S trim, that for the P300 and the First Edition P300, they are going to be powered by turbocharged 2.0 liter inline 4 that the article specifies, and it's going to produce around 300 horsepower. Now, the R Dynamic is the all-wheel drive model, which I'm assuming if they're specifying R, then it has the V8, and it has a price of $82,000, which surprisingly is a price drop from last year's model, which last year's model was around $3,000 more. However, the most powerful R coupe, which I assume that they got some traits from the SVR and decided to transfer those tuning mechanisms over to this new generation one, that it gets a price hike of around $1,400 from the 2020, and it starts at $104,000. Now that is a lot for a Jaguar. And surprisingly, and it's unfortunate, that some of these cars don't really sell that well. I don't see them on the road that much. You don't see them in car meets. I know a couple people who had them on Instagram, but there are a lot of better cars on the market for this price, and especially if you want an R-Type or an F-Type, you can buy a used one online, and they run pretty substantially cheap, and I think with this new model that's coming out, it's going to degrade the value even more. So as a result of that, I just recommend buying a used F-Type R. Now, when I mention cheap, I mean relatively speaking to what this car is supposed to compete with. Now, I think this car is supposed to compete with Mercedes-Benz, Porsche, and most probably BMW, who knows, but at the same time, they're going to be trade-offs because this price might be associated with maintenance issues. Now, I'm not sure what the maintenance is on this car. I haven't digged too much into it, but in the past, and Jaguar has obviously improved on this, that their maintenance is pretty substantially high comparatively speaking to other car companies. Now, Jaguar has pretty much improved this, and I think it's because they're not essentially a British company anymore. They're an Indian company owned by Tata Motors. And also, get your mind out of the gutter because you know why. So, Jaguar is also Land Rover. And, they have been working together more collaboratively speaking once Tata Motors got into the picture. And Jaguar has stepped up their redefiance of who they are because, initially they were considered as like an old people's car. But however, like I specified before, they have been redefining their game and targeting new groups of people with different age ranges. But, I read in recent news that Land Rover and Jaguar haven't really been too good with sales, but, we'll see how they go. Hopefully they do fine, but however, enough of that spiel. So Dodge Durango Hellcat likely teased in the new ad. So if you follow my Instagram account, the Dysfunctional Podcast, and let me spell that for you, _Dysfunctional_podcast, then you've seen this post, and this is pretty freaking cool. Now, some people have already had this setup implemented into their Durango. I know a couple of people that I follow that they have a supercharger already. I forgot what company it's from. It's on the tip of my tongue. It'll probably come later. But however, while this is interesting, the real highlight happens for less than 2 seconds, starting at the 18-second mark of the clip. So Dodge, stop cock teasing us and deliver it to us. We already know what it is. This was a horrible tease. That's the only downside. The good side is it's actually a Durango Hellcat. That is cool. That is honestly cool. And the structural integrity of this chassis, especially for the Durango, might come in handy for this motor that delivers a lot of torque, a lot of power. So, they just slapped the motor on. So good for Dodge for doing that. But however, the reason why we know it's a Durango already is because it predominantly shows a Hellcat logo on the front fender, and this fender is pretty noticeable for the Durango. Now, if you look at the video and if you look at a Durango fender, you see that they're the same, of course. So that's the news. And if you want to learn more about this tease, and it's just a tease and I just explained it to you, and if you want to see the picture, you can just go on my account. But however, if you want to learn more, dive more into this information, go to the nitty gritty details of this cock tease that Dodge has delivered to you, then please go on motor1.com, which I got this source from. Now, unfortunately, the Chicago Auto Show, I believe, is coming up, and it has specified that it's not going to be there, which is a shame, but, who knows when they're going to show it. We'll just see. Now, in other news, the Genesis has finally came out with an SUV. Now, this SUV is called the GV80, and this is considered Hyundai's luxury brand, which is Genesis. And when you look at this car, it looks very similar to the Bentayga. The front grille is huge. It's very similar to. I just think the visual features and how they depicted this car, they obviously got some styling features from the Bentayga and some other luxury brands that's pretty standard for Asian car companies, that they like to bite off German, British, but not Americans for some reason, because apparently, according to their perspective, we're not good at styling cars. So there you go. Now this vehicle will come in 2021. The article has specified that this car is going to bring Genesis on the map, which it has quoted. Help is on the way in the form of the new Genesis SUV, which it just seems like they really needed, because a lot of the car market is switching over to SUVs instead of sedans. And if you have a car company, one of the crucial models that you need to have in your lineup is an SUV, because you want to nurture to the mommy market. I'm not sure if that's what you call it, but the family market, of course. And the study has shown that a lot of people are buying big cars because there's this perception that the bigger your car is, the more safe the passengers in that car will be. But however, the other part of this study, and I forgot the name of it, but if you're interested in it, just DM me and I can try and find it for you, that a lot of fatalities have increased because of this mindset, because obviously not a lot of people can really afford big SUVs because it comes with a huge price tag. But if you're in a smaller car, your probability of fatality is significantly higher. And I think that's that's unfortunate, but that's pretty much how the car market evolves, and usually, people buy bigger things. So there you go. The article has said that it looks nicer than the Bentley Bentayga, which, it looks very similar to this car, and I'm telling you, they got styling features from this car, and I think they did a great job. I just think, people are just going to make fun of it and say, you got the poor man's Bentayga and all this stuff, and it's a downside if you let people's words get to you, but, if you get it for your purpose, and you do you. That's the main point. Now, I think this car will probably outsell all the sedans that they have in the lineup for less than a year. We'll see. But, the SUV market is substantially huge, comparably speaking, to any other type of car that's out on the market, such as sedans, coupes, you name it. So we'll just see from there. Now, unfortunately, I need to cut it short this week, because usually I do 4 articles, but instead I decided to do 3. But a lot of relevant news came out, and I just want to keep this podcast consistent so people can essentially listen to it every Saturday and try to make a routine out of it. But now it's time for Song of the Week. Now, I know most of you heard this song already, and if you haven't, then you gotta listen to it. It's by the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication. Now, to get the deeper meaning in this song, and I promise again that I'm not going to get too philosophical with this, but the general idea of this song is, from my understanding of it, and this song was made in 1999 on the album, coincidentally called Californication, that Hollywood has the wrong values of emphasizing on age being a negative factor of life, that you should try to combat this, get plastic surgery, try to do whatever you can to defeat the process of aging, essentially, which it's up to you. If you want to get plastic surgery, then go ahead and do it. I don't care. It's not my body. So as a result of that, with those types of themes and, emphasizing more on society, focusing more on entertainment than the exploration of our own earth and own surroundings of where we live, general questions that we don't know the answers today. And it's an interesting theme, and I just think if You want to listen to something that delivers those messages with a little bit of slap bass and a little bit of jam, pop rock jam, then go ahead and listen to the Red Hot Chili Peppers if you haven't listened to them, which I'll be surprised. But Californication, good song. Go listen to it. Now, this marks the end of our podcast. If you please subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our SoundCloud account, and also follow our Instagram account. It'll be greatly appreciated. We appreciate everyone that's listening to this already, and if you have any questions, just send me a DM or email us at the Dysfunctional Podcast Mail at gmail.com. Again, the Dysfunctional Podcast Mail at gmail.com. Hopefully we can get a podcast in tomorrow, but I'm not sure because everyone's schedule seems to be pretty busy, which I'm completely understandable of that. And, if you're not busy on a Sunday, go ahead and DM me or email me, and I'll be more than happy to schedule a podcast with you. Most importantly, the Dysfunctional Podcast every Sunday. So, have a good weekend, everyone.